Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night, whatever it is, wherever you are. We're being scripted in relation to our experience in this third dimension. And the script could be known as the revelation of the method. There is a universal understanding that nothing can be imposed on us without the acceptance of ourselves allowing that. And this is where I think sovereignty of individuals is becoming the biggest fear for the establishment, wherever we are, whoever we are, however we are. And sovereignty comes in a number of ways. There have been wars fought over sovereignty in relation to national states, nation states, and there have been fears in relation to sovereignty in relation to the ruling elites, whether they be the English or the Spanish or the French, to determine as to whether or not we have a solidarity within their experience, their culture, their crown, or whether we are unique to ourselves. Something that Australia is yet to explore. And obviously, if we're yet to explore it, I don't think that we're going to engage in it. But our sovereignty is an experience in many ways, and I just don't see how we could be sovereign whilst as individuals we're just not sovereign. And as individuals, we're not sovereign from the first point of call in relation to the acceptance of ultimately this revelation of the method. And if you'll allow me to explain a little bit in relation to the subject itself, before I give you opportunities of being able to look at how sovereign an experience we might be able to explore as individuals. So in relation to the subject that the establishments, and when I say that, we're on a global scale here because we're all subject to the same desires of those that have what would be a control over us. And first of all, that could start with money. And we could go back 300 years to the establishment of what the modern banking system, which happened to also occur while Saturn was in Pisces, which is coming up for a couple of years, starting their first ingresses in March this year, 2023. So that's an astrological pinpoint to integrate into. We can also take a look at the technology of money occurring whilst Pluto was in the sign of Aquarius, taking control of the wider community and creating that as an outcome. So we're experiencing that as well this March. Now, I would explore the opportunity to dive deeper into that, but we're not on that subject. That's just to correlate perhaps some of the timing that does occur. And the timing occurs because of the vibration and the momentum given by the vibration, and everything from sound, healing, physical, cellular structure. It is all vibration. Debate as much as you like. And that's why we wear certain things that are going to have a certain vibration, giving us a perspective of sovereignty within what is being projected upon us. But I digress, because there's no small way of discussing this as a global phenomenon. So let's stick with the revelation of the method. We're going to reveal the method, in which case we have been allowing ourselves to accept the outcomes which have a momentous occurrence in the future as it has in the past. Now, there's a hidden law that no collective experience in reality can be imposed without our consent. And we go, well, we haven't actually given consent. And we might not have in a term of expression, however, we have in the term of acceptance. Do we accept the material that is the rhetoric and the hyperbole that occurs in the projection of the media, projection of the entertainment, projection of the gaming industry, projection of the violence, the fear, the adrenal fatigue, projection of the vibrational dampening in the consumption, the consumerism, the escapism, the substance abuse. Do we, have we, will we, shall we continue? We have, we do, shall we continue? That's entirely up to us. I believe we have a choice. Some of those choices will be more difficult than others, depending on who we are, for more difficulty from others' perspectives. And that is a consequence that I believe is of the here and now, which is why I'm in the discussion of this right now. So our consent is given by what we have been shown and accepted and what we purchase and what we participate in. The continual rhetoric and repetition to the hyperbole of what will be before it actually occurs. The information that is being shared or spoken and maybe not projected to the point initially. However, the closer we get, the more it becomes the rhetoric, the more the momentum is gained for that to be the outcome. And we could look at that in relation to any number of subjects, having been in recent years, leading up to recent years, economically in relation to it, economically in relation to now, economically in relation to the consequences of the near future, the consequences of those that didn't pay attention to the economic consequences of the near future, and how all of that plays out for everybody else. We've been told and shown, in years gone past, and if we chose not to pay attention to that, that does not mean that the collective didn't. And what is happening to us right now is happening on a collective scale. So, we are either in a place in ourselves where we are leveling up with an understanding that we're not going to avoid what is occurring. We're not separating ourselves from what has been put into place. We are separating ourselves in relation to how we are going to process what has been put into place. And here is where we cheers ourselves if we've done some of the work to date. Were we a part of a culture where we have been into the entitlement era, the gaming, the apathy? Have we accepted wholeheartedly the multimedia? Have we accepted the nature to froth over the metaverse? Are we okay that the world is falling apart because we actually don't really participate in that third dimension? But we're not actually participating in the fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh dimensions. Have we actually gone back to the arbrid, to the cauldron of life, to become a single cell organism as opposed to the gigant of ascension, so to speak? Being able to witness people for their self as a lower vibrational being. You must be a Sigma if you can. So, what has been occurring in relation to the revelation of the method has been an imprintation of our subconscious mind. Well, we are being fed meticulously in the consumption of, in the food that we consume, in the media that we consume, whether that be the TV, the news, the TV shows, the games, the entertainment, the movies, the frothing over, being saved by superheroes. Well, unless you know somebody that also has Saturn in their 12th house, you don't know a superhero. Okay? There's no superheroes in your world. And you're probably not going to be one. If this kind of content is just too far beyond you, then you are not going to be participating in that. And that's okay. We have an opportunity to change. We have a responsibility for change. To flow with the status quo is only in relation to the experiences of all good and all bad in relation to it. To allow it all without the judgment, to just be the most ascension-based, to be here in the third dimension, operating from the fifth, and experiencing it as a moment of just going, I accept all that is. I accept that the radical changes are occurring, and I accept the opportunity to experience them from a fifth dimension in the third, and allow it. We know what is going to happen. I'm not here to change that. I'm here to be the change on the other side of that. There's a difference. Attachment comes down to that. Attachment to the status quo now not changing is part of the consequence that people will be suffering within. No, but I've worked really hard to get where I'm at in debt and striving to have ownership over things that are no use to me. Yeah, I've worked really hard for that. I've worked really hard to exhaust myself in the slavery of the creation and the anxiety of the experience of that. Yes, and I'll agree, you have worked really hard for that. It's a repetition of the condition. Very strong imagery in the hyperbole that is sold. Strong imagery in relation to the media, the entertainment, and the rhetoric. And therefore, strong imagery in relation to the self-expression that we take on, have taken on, in relation to protecting it. And there's going to be a state of shock, which ultimately has to occur if we're going to be looking at some kind of positive outcome from it. The positive outlook that we create will be in a state of ascension. The negative will be the violent imagery, the fear, the sensationalism of it. And if that's our reality, then the consequences are vast. We're being collectively misdirected into a timeline that has been the desire from the consequence of chaos and order. So this is not going to be a subject about the New World Order, but the New World Order is not something that one day we will just end up in. The New World Order has been constantly created from the chaos that has been incrementally exposed and therefore experienced, for a new state of order to come from the chaos. And we can look at that astrologically at the opposition of Pluto and Saturn on the date of 9/11. Or we can look at the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn on the date that COVID-19 was broadcast, sensationalized in the media to the wider world. These moments of trajectory integrating into our state of consciousness, creating chaos and disorder for new levels of order to be created, as this mundane astrologer predicted prior to the COVID, commenting on not the disease, but in the state of imprisonment and the level of imprisonment that would occur on a global scale never achieved in history prior. And the level of self-imprisonment that we applied to ourselves was obviously that. Yet I forecast it 9 months prior. And what I have for us in the future is even worse. But I digress. This is not about that. Trauma comes from the chaos. Order comes from the desire for our trauma to be resolved, to be relieved. I'm relieved now. There's a solution. Ultimately, what we do see and what we just don't respond to, because we tend to be a little bit too local in our backyard, a little bit too local in our sphere of social media, where we're not actually responding to the circumstances that are occurring on a more global scale, that as they implement and strategize and test their will in nations different to ours, but will be powerless and are powerless when it comes knocking on our doors. So we need to create an awareness of the discernment that we have to the circumstances that have a forecast into a future that allow us to integrate some of the practices that I will offer in a moment to unprogram our past, to recognize our past, to be able to not buy into, to show discernment in our future. And that can be a challenge, because we're undoing all the things that we've swallowed in the past. There's a lot of pain in that. But it's an opportunity for us to consider where we choose to exist in the future. When we're looking at the sovereignty of ourselves, it's a declaration, it's a spoken, it's a conscious action to take on. I do not consent. But our actions must equal our words. For if we communicate our dissatisfaction, disapproval, and yet we continue to purchase and consume in the way that we do consent, that we do buy into the rhetoric, that we do switch on the channel, that we do apply the apathy in the choices that we make, in the time that we spend, in the wastefulness of our extent, of our experience, of our purchasing power, of our application in this life, we are not living our words. And that's a hard one. We've always held the power, okay, but we've been shown that we're powerless. You're not a superhero. Well, you could be. And it starts by being a superhero of your choices. Something that is a very rewarding experience, and yet at the same time, the most challenging. If you would like some information in relation to how we can support our system, our physical system, to have the mental clarity and strength to see through the changes that are desired for a future that we might choose, please leave a comment in the section. I have much to offer in relation to what I've practiced in my life, what I've learnt for the last 30, 40 years in relation to it. You could go back even further. Subconsciously, I've been learning since I was moved internationally at the age of 3 months old into a war zone. So, do I have discernment? You bet. Probably too much for the people to naturally digest. But if you made it this far, then you deserve a whole lot more. If you've made it this far in this video, you deserve everything I have to offer. So please, show me that you actually are willing to digest more in regards to the opportunity of exploring oneself as we are here in ourselves, but ultimately as one. So we have to heal within ourselves before we can create sovereignty within ourselves. We have to heal a lot of the judgment that we'll have in relation to doing things contrarily to the benefit of ourselves and of our kin, of our mankind. And we have to heal ourselves from repeating the cognitive dissonance that is our scapegoat, that is our comfort food, that is our apathy, that is our choices in every day. When money holds every power that we have given away, we have to understand that there are radical shifts in relation to how we are going to explore the relationship to money, our needs, our desires, and therefore every choice we ever make. We have three paths that we can explore in relation to our self-exploration, our reliance on self, our connection to our surroundings on a deeper level of self. And they come from ancient traditions that are before Christianity. In fact, it's interesting because Christianity came at a point in time predominantly with the Romans, the Roman era, the Greeks and the Romans to a degree. The Greeks had their gods, okay, and then the gods were apparently false gods, but then they were allowed to be turned into angels, and other elements, leaders amongst society within the era of biblical terms. We have pagan culture, which is very, very strong and was drawn from land and has had the resurgence since the Industrial Revolution of the 18 and 1900s. From that point in time, we become a little bit more understanding of history. If we look at the structures going through architecture, we have to understand that there was much more to it than what we've been told. And we could go even as simple as why did World War I occur? What was it all about? And we're not going to mention the word Tartarian. Oops. That's another story. But going into our process of reconnecting with ourselves, we have three paths. We have the telluric path, which is the earth path, which could be seen as the underground, could be seen as the darkness, could be seen as hell or the demonic. Don't sweat it. We have the sun path, okay, which is not going to be chasing the light and creating a bigger shadow behind us, because enlightenment is not about chasing light. Enlightenment is about losing attachment. The attachments that weigh us down. It's lightening our being. Why not fast a little bit? Why not choose to understand what we put inside our bodies? Why not understand where we choose what we put inside our bodies has an effect on what we desire? What we desire is what we have attachment to. Those attachments are actually weighing us down. Okay, so that's another subject we'll bring into later on when we're looking at some of the stages of ascension that are available to us all, that are actually for us all, as we are all on the path. Maybe just not awareness in it, but that's what we're here for. And then we have the lunar path, which is what is within. It is the reflection. What are we reflecting within ourselves? So I've taken some notes over the years in relation to it. Path of essentially, like, the earliest form of spirituality was a form from a pagan culture, which has been defined as pagan, so we can like slag on it, but it relates to actually living on this earth. Seasonally adjusted celebration of the ability to survive. Just a little word of warning, if you want to rip into the pagans, then you're ripping into every aspect of your heritage. Okay? You didn't come from a place of where, you were built with housing and celebration and entitlement. There was a level of success through the time of experience that enabled those evolutions to occur. So you can slag it, judge it, and that would just be naive and in denial, which is ultimately one of the things that we have to lose, is the denial, to be able to move past ourselves and see our futures. So that we can keep this under 30 minutes, which I'm not sure we will. I'm just going to come through these quickly and we'll talk about them further in depth later. But from a telluric current, okay, an earth path, we can live with ethics. We can be a steward of our lands. We can have natural living in relation to what we do in our environment. We can create harmony around that. We can create stillness, focus, and we can study a little bit more than what has been shown to us, okay? We can have an ecological and ethical perspective in our choices. We can live in organic existence. We can choose to garden, and we can choose to plant trees. Okay, from a sun path, from a solar current path, okay, we can have ceremony in our lives, seasonally adjusted. Lunar Su being today, okay? It's the 1st of February here. It is the celebration right now of harvest. We should be having some bread from the harvest of the grains that have occurred throughout the season. We should be drinking some ale in relation to that today. I don't drink, and I don't really eat bread. But I do in my own way what is in relation to my own celebration. That's just another story. I'll help you choose some of these if you'd like. Leave a comment in the section below. We want to perform some rituals in relation to our daily existences, or our weekly existences, or our seasonal existences, or our lunar existences. We have lunar returns. Do we know what that is? Again, do your own research, or leave a comment and I'll talk about it. Create space. Create space in our lives. Minimalists, perhaps. Shedding the attachment. It's a good way of enlightening oneself, is creating space. Another is to be able to create a ceremonial space, something that you want to choose to give thanks to on a daily basis. Maybe it's your coffee machine. Set a space around it. Create space in your day. When you're making your coffee, do it in a spiritual way. If you do it every day, why not? Do you know the energy that we put into something, we get back threefold? If we are going to put energy into dissing somebody, or dissing me in this situation right now, I've put protection around me, you will get it back threefold. So if you want to put a positive energy into what you've witnessed here today, you are going to get that back 3 times. That is what I give to you. I give you back 3 times what you give to me. So be careful what you choose to give to me. Just quiet word. The wheel of life, the season of life, okay, the season of the sun. We can focus on this one. We can focus on the tropical zodiac in relation to it. We can focus on the year round. We can focus on the seasons. We can focus on how we express ourselves in them, or how we go within. As I was talking about, we're on a waning sun, and that's an opportunity for us to explore the depths that the sun has to offer, and how we're going to choose to spend some time within, going within. What are we going to do? What kind of work are we going to do? Perhaps we'll discuss some of this in the lunar current that it comes up next. And obviously, like today, a holy day ritual, maybe from your space of religion, maybe your ceremonial choices, you have holy days of religion. Maybe you relate to the fact that today is the day of Mercury, it's a Wednesday. Maybe you have a relation to your communication and you want to honor. That's why I do these things on a Wednesday, because it's about the communication. It's about the connection to Mercury in relation to it. Mercury connected the gods together. Okay. Perhaps you have a different reference. Perhaps you're about love and you want to do it on a Friday with Venus. Or like I do, if I'm doing self-reflection, I'll always do it on a Monday, which is the moon day. Do you see where I'm going with that? Leave a comment if you want a discussion in relation to the planetary days or the planetary hours of each day. Take charge of your timing. Take charge of your manifestation, of your interest, your intention, your internal. There are powers to make things more momentous. Those powers come from within, as we have every zodiac within us, every planet within us representing us in a way. From our astrology, it'll represent us in a way based on where it falls in the zodiac, what house that might fall into, how the ruler of that house is being applied in another area of your zodiac. No small feat, but if you'd like, we can help you digest it so you can take power of it as well. And now the lunar current, my favorite, because we're not the binaural, we are eternal. Eternal. Ter is 3. 3 is the magic number, my numerology. The eternal current glues the telluric current and the solar current together. It takes the binaural, takes the binary aspect, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly, the heaven or hell, and it puts it within. The meditations, the moments, the space we create, the daily intention to create intuition, the silence of the mind of the chatter, so that when we do get downloads, we know that it's not one thing but another. The oracles that we can create within ourselves. Dowsing, divining, however you'd like to achieve it. Might be I Ching, might be runes, might be tarot, might be animal medicine cards, might be just your own words in a diary, exploring them, manifesting your dreams, creating your dreams, understanding your dreams. The physical and spiritual movement of practice. What are we going to do for ourselves? We are the vessel. Do we do anything for it? Why do we do what we do for it? Are we slaving at the gym for an external reason or an internal reason? I suggest that if we're slaving, we're probably doing it for something external, because we're not going to slave for something that is within us. Okay? Breathing, relaxation, posture. How do we carry ourselves? Do we understand our breath? We know the medulla oblongata's got it covered if we want to just ignore it, just like our walking. But how do we walk? Do we walk because we walk the same way as what a flat pavement and the shoes that are designed? Or do we walk as if we are treading through the earth, absorbing the current and translating Schumann resonance? Do we meditate on colors? Do we understand the meaning of colors? Do we understand the relationship to them to our chakras? Do we have the concentration to be able to cultivate and patience, the peace that is within? Are we creating discursive meditations within ourselves where we choose to focus on where our mind goes, to allow ourselves to understand why it might have gone there, to start breaking that down, to break it down, to break it down, to realize, oh, there was actually something when I follow those breadcrumbs. These are some of the paths that can be taken when we take a look at ourselves in our days. Not the D-A-Z-E, but the D-A-Y-S. To alleviate our D-A-Z-E and ultimately not be within 30 minutes. So I apologize, obviously, for all of the blah, 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 but it is a Wednesday. My Mercury is in Cancer, and it is also in the 5th house. So it's creative. I explain it as if the youth could understand it. That's the only way to explain something. It's the only way to say that you know it is to be able to explain it to the youth. And that is something that I do feel proud to be able to share with you today. And if you made it this far, I want to thank you. Because ultimately, nobody should be putting up with this kind of 40 minutes of downloads. But you never know. This could have been the 40 minutes that actually changed your life. I'm sharing the things that changed mine. I just managed to change them a long time ago. So I hope that there's an opportunity. If you got anything out of this, share it in the comments section. Like the video. Don't subscribe though. The more people that subscribe to this kind of material, the more it'll get censored. Because obviously this is not what they want you to hear. And now, I'm going to love you and leave you. Bye-bye.